What are your concerns for your children growing up in this fast-paced environment?
It is much scarier right now because, like, you don't know when you're a kid, you don't know the world is scary.
No.
You know, it's not until you become an adult where it's like, oh gosh, this is kind of like out of our scope of comfort.
Welcome to the Millionaire Mentorship Podcast, where we talk all things real estate, business, entrepreneurship. Today, I've got a very special guest. In fact, if you go way back, one of the first people on my quasi podcast before I really had anything going was Ryan Haywood. I met Ryan when I was surfing Instagram for deals, and I've watched, like, he was just beginning his wholesale journey, and since then, man, a lot has changed, man. Welcome to the show, man.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me. It is one of those things that has happened, and a lot of time has passed. Like,
yeah, man.
Looking at it, in fact, just seeing some of the Facebook memories popping up in the last few weeks, even, because it has been like our 4-year anniversary doing all the stuff that we've been doing.
Yeah.
And looking back, and I'm just like, I cannot believe how quickly that time has passed and how much has changed.
Right.
But
let's talk about that. Like, so first of all, when I met you, and I was thinking about this last night, how either brain dead you were, and I wasn't thinking this way, or how gutsy you were. Because when you quit your job, you had a baby on the way. I didn't even ask you how much money you have saved up or any of this stuff, but like, just your conviction to do that and your belief in yourself, I think, is one of the biggest things. I always tell people, belief in yourself is the most important. But like, talk to us about like where you're at right now, but where you started 4 years ago.
Yeah, in context, like, I was in a job that I was proud of being in. Like, I enjoyed my job. I was a sales and marketing manager over an internet company, and I had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I've always been a thrill of the sale kind of guy. I always love the process of sales. It's
you
fun.
Snarled a little bit when you said that.
Well, it's just something that it excites me. I came from, my first career was at Foot Locker selling shoes.
Yeah.
And dude, there is no greater environment than sales environment. I loved it. I've loved it from time at Foot Locker all the way through. So I enjoyed that job, and I'd never really seen myself outside the world of any kind of sales. I just assumed, hey, this is what I'm good at. This is what I'm going to do for my career, is sales. Selling anything. I can sell whatever you want me to sell, I'll do it. But like, when you're working for someone else in sales jobs, I mean, those are usually pretty high turnover positions. Like, that's not something that is typically a sales guy's going to be there for 40 years.
Yeah.
You know, and I started to feel those pressing changes. And
how long were you there?
7 years.
At United Fiber.
Yep. Spent 7 years there, and I was the first hire that they had, and like scaled that business from 0 customers to well over 10,000 customers.
You did?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I thought of that. This is my career. This is my career job. Like, I'm going to retire from here.
Yeah.
And had 2 kids already, with a 3rd on the way. And then just things started happening, and it was a quick realization of, I don't think I'm going to make it here. And we were also in that, like, we're going to have a baby, so I have to, like, man up and just stick it out. Yeah. But you know, it was like increasingly getting worse every day. Sticking it out was a chore to stick out every single day. Yeah. And about that, I don't know, it was October, somewhere around October, and Megan had found some information on Max Maxwell's wholesaling stuff, and I didn't pay any attention to it. I had already had interest in real estate. Yeah. We already had 5 units or 5 doors, but it was like, when we say passive income, that what I was doing with those doors was absolutely passive. Like, I didn't know who was living in them. I didn't know how much rent I was getting out of them. Yeah. Like, it was like this, well, I'm going to invest in real estate.
Passive management too.
Passive management. Like, the whole thing was completely I didn't do anything with it. So, but I had interest in real estate, and I was like, maybe that'd be something I can do on the side. Well, we start, feeling the pressures, and then you start digging a little bit deeper.
To sidebar real quick, where did that interest in real estate come from?
I've told this a few times. My dad had a few times mentioned, it'd be cool to have a duplex because you can live in one side and have somebody pay the bills. Now, I've reminded my dad, like, hey, you're the one that mentioned these things to me. He's like, I didn't have anything to do with that. And I'm like, you did, you just didn't you don't remember it. But like my dad had mentioned a few times of like how cool it would be to have a duplex and somebody else, you live in one side and somebody else pays for the bills. So we bought 2 duplexes. We didn't live in either of them. But like with those 3 properties, like we had enough money in rent from those 3 properties and 5 units that it was able to pay for our mortgage.
Okay.
And a little bit of background too, before we even got to the point where I could say out loud, I'm going to leave my corporate job, like there was some financial things that we had to do some house cleaning before we could get to the point where I was like, I feel comfortable doing that. We went through the Dave Ramsey program. I was gonna say, is this
the Dave Ramsey moment?
Yep. We went through the Dave Ramsey program. We got all of our debt paid off and put ourselves in a good financial position that when the moment came where it was like, I don't want to work for this company anymore. And Megan was like, well, what are you going to do? And I'm like, I have no idea, but I'm not going to work for anyone ever again. It made saying that less stressful. Like being able to say, okay, we've got at least, like I knew I could go and do anything and make money. Like I could go and work on houses. I already knew how to do some of that stuff. I could go and sell something. I could get a sales job.
You just knew you weren't working for United Fiber
But
anymore.
I knew that I was just done there. And when we came to that conclusion, about that same time, Megan found this wholesaling stuff. And I've told the story so many times, but it's so fresh in the memory, like it happened yesterday. But I can remember her being like, oh, you should do this challenge. And I'm just like, I'm not interested in that. I don't know what wholesaling is, but it's not something, it doesn't sound interesting. And then like she was persistent because she knew that Ryan would be great at this. And so part of that was like you had to sign up on Facebook, and I was like adamant about I'm not going to do it. And she's like, I'll set the Facebook up. I'll do it. You just do the program. I'm like, okay, fair. So that was October of 2019 when we did the 30-day wholesaling challenge, and it took 14 days to get our first deal locked up and done. And I remember clearly going to the title company to pick up a check, and like I made $8,500, and that was JV. Like we did a joint venture with another wholesaler that helped us find a buyer. And I was like looking at it, and I made $8,500. Now, things that I've not told people, like the whole time I was in that sales job, my goal was like, I just want to make an $8,000 check after taxes. I worked so hard at like, I would try to smash my sales goals to get $8,000. And in 2 weeks of wholesaling,
something you knew nothing about.
Knew nothing about. I'm like holding an $8,500 check in my hand, and like that was the proof of concept moment. That was that was relatively simple. I think I could go and replicate this a bunch, and like the year 1 we did like 73 transactions,
which is absolutely freaking crazy.
But I didn't know that. I didn't know. To me, and there was so much that I didn't know that I wished I would have learned sooner. Like, it wasn't until like year 2 and year 3 where I realized, I could be making bigger spreads on these deals. Like early on, I would take anything. Like 2,000, yeah, I'll take that.
I remember those days. I was like, I'll buy 17 houses.
Yeah. So
I knew that you were smart enough to get wise. You were just being
just in time.
Yeah, I was like, he's gonna figure this out. You were like after it. I'm like, he's gonna. And then you're like, hey, what about collective genius? And I was like, oh, he's definitely gonna figure it out.
Yeah, that was like that was the next pivotal moment. Was we had been using Deal Machine as our main means of all marketing. Like we used Deal Machine for everything: driving for dollars, postcards, skip tracing, everything that you could use at the time. I was 100% using that. Yeah. Mainly for the like ease of use. Like I had everything that I needed, a CRM. I had everything right there in Deal Machine. I just used that.
Yeah, it's a great tool. It's a fantastic tool.
Like they had introduced me to Collective Genius, but like when I found out, like I had the meeting with CG, and they're like, oh, it's $15,000 a year, which still, like, even though I'm making good money in wholesale, $15,000 is like, and that's a commitment to something.
Yeah, you don't want to risk your money.
No, and so I was like, the first thing that came to mind was I'm going to call Troy, run this past him, and it took you like 2 seconds. Hey, what about Collective Genius? Do it. I'm like, okay, let's.
Well, I was trying to get in myself at that point in time, and I was like, if you're already in and they're allowing you to get in, because it's just a matter of time before you probably won't be able to.
Something too, like Megan was super supportive of that. Like even after talking to you, I still struggled with that mentality of spending that much money in it.
Yeah, it's tough.
And she made the point. She's like, look, it's $15,000. That's 2 deals.
Yeah.
And you got the whole thing covered. But once I got in there and my eyes started getting opened to, okay, first off, 73 deals is a ton of deals. Like I did not know the gratitude or the magnitude of that until I got into a room full of people that are like, yeah, we did 10. Right. And it's like, what? How did, like, what? Yeah. So then you start learning a lot more about, okay, you need to have these kinds of people working for you. You need to have these resources available. They'll analyze, like, okay, tell us what your average fee is. And I can remember saying, well, I'm pulling about 5,000, and everybody's like, that is way too low. Like, you need to be digging deeper in the deal or raising your fees, because what you're bringing to the table is you're finding tons of properties for investors. That is a valuable. But even then, I didn't know how valuable that was. Right. So it wasn't until like I started buying properties where I was like, then I realized how significant finding discounted properties that are not listed on the market, that are
the hardest thing to do.
Man, like, yeah. Then that transition, then we start like, okay, we're going to start buying some of our own. Right. And I may have went a little hog wild, but it was like, I'm buying like 3 or 4 deals a month.
Don't matter.
And the only thing that I would say, like somebody asked me the other day, would you do anything differently? And I'm like, yeah, maybe I wouldn't have bought as many, but if I wouldn't be where I'm at right now. So it was like.
So how many homes have you bought to this date? So you started with 5 units total.
5 units total.
And that was 4 years ago.
Now we have 50 units total. Don't know the breakdown of what. I have got some 4plexes, some triplexes. I bought some trailer park. I've got a variety. I don't know the breakdown of what, but I've got 50 units. Awesome. Which is, it's a game changer in the realization of like, okay, I'm making enough in rental income that if I have a bad month in wholesaling, I'm okay. Like we're taken care of.
You have the financial freedom.
Yeah. And that has enabled us to do a lot. Like we've been able to scale our business to not just wholesaling deals. Like we have created a operation that's really kind of geared towards like a new investor. Right. Like, hey, you need help getting into it. Well, we've got all the things that you need. We've got access to properties. We've got all the knowledge that you could have. Like I've learned over the course of 4 years, but I also have connections with tons of people that can help. Right. But then like one of the big hurdles that we ran into year 2, going out of year 2 into year 3 was like, we were wholesaling a lot of deals, but then we noticed a lot of deals weren't getting fixed. And it was just like, there was still, I wanted to see in a small enough town that I live in, I wanted to see like, wow, things are improving quickly because of what we are doing.
Yeah.
And when we were doing, we did 115 transactions in year 2, but maybe only a quarter of them were getting fixed, and the rest of them were sitting. And it was like, people didn't have crews.
Right.
And so that was the next, like, all right, how do we fix this?
Right.
And the simple answer was be the solution to the problem.
Right.
So we had to start being a contractor and adding that piece of the business. Well, now we've got 7 crews and running multiple jobs every month.
Yeah.
And created a system of buy it, fix it, repeat. Like, an investor can come in, and there's several investors that are new to investing that in 1 year we've like helped them grow to 10. You know, in 1 year, that's significant.
Done for you.
Done. Like, that's, you purchase it, you hire us to do the renovations. All you're responsible for is making sure that we have the money when we need it.
Yeah.
And then once it's done, we pass you to the property manager. They get it rented. You're ready to do the refinance, and then just recycle and keep growing. And that has been huge in our growth. Like, we don't do 115 deals, but
you don't need to.
We don't need to now.
Yeah.
We've got multiple sources of income coming in through construction, through wholesale, through our own portfolio. So that's where we are now. Like, it is a crazy different picture.
Yeah, and it's been so cool to like watch the growth of you, because a lot of people could walk into 73 deals, feel completely content and continue to go and not grow and think that they're at the top of their game. But, you invested in, the one thing about you is you're early adopter on things. And I think that you ask questions to people before you make decisions to make sure that, like, hey, yeah, I've invested this, but let me talk to some reliable people that I trust so that I can bounce my idea off. So I'm making sure that I'm checking those boxes, and that has allowed you to grow. And one of the other things is, like, you've demonstrated your ability. Like, I know in Collective Genius, you've won like all the belts, right? Like,
yeah, I did. Like, they have a hot seat challenge where it's different now than what it was when I first started, but like, if you give the best presentation, you get a belt. And like, I didn't know how hard it was to win a belt. Yeah. Because the very first time I go and do a presentation, I got the belt, and I was like, oh, that was a breeze. And then I went back and I this about me, like, the competitive side of Ryan comes out, and it's like, look out. And
he doesn't look like he's like secretly plotting how to beat you, but he is.
I am. I'm working it. In my mind, I might be smiling at you, but I'm also like,
single-handedly hope that you hook your ball into the water.
Yeah. I will chuckle after you hook the ball in the water. But like, so I go back to the second meeting, and I do another presentation. I get the belt again, and I'm like, I still don't realize how hard it is to give something that's valuable enough to be awarded that belt. Yeah. But like, I haven't won it since, and I've done a number of presentations, but the amount of knowledge that comes from other investors is unbelievable. Like, it's super hard. But yeah, it was a good pat on the back. Yeah. And it was a good, like, it felt like a good reward for putting in all the blood, sweat, and tears into the growth of the business.
Well, I think the other thing that was really cool to see happen for you was when you teamed up with Deal Machine and the founder of David Lucko. You guys had fortified a friendship, a business relationship, and you guys are like crushing it in the podcast world as well. What's the name of your podcast? Is
it's Deal Machine Real Estate Investing Podcast.
Right. And find it on all the platforms. Yeah. And you guys interview people who are successful using Deal Machine.
Yeah, we cater, our podcast is really geared for someone who is looking to get their first deal. Like, right. We want somebody that's like, I want to do this. we interview people that have closed their first deal. We talk about that. We get into depth into what their experience is, how much they made on their first deal, in hopes that we can encourage people that are trying to get there to get what they need to be able to grow as well.
Their proof of concept.
Yep, they need that proof of concept moment. And that was another thing that, like, looking back, like, I remember thinking, I don't know when I will ever be to a position where I can help other people. Yeah. But I remember, like, and the way that you were with me, so giving of, like, the information and the knowledge and the help, I'm like, I don't understand when will I know when I'm there? Like, when will I know that what I'm doing is valuable enough to help other people? And still to this day, I still feel like I'm not, like, I don't need to be telling somebody how to do it. But at the same time, I'm like, well, I looked this 4 years ago and look at where I'm at now. And I do think that there's ways to help people grow. So
yeah, I think that anytime somebody's trying to educate other people, they take a look at themselves, myself personally, and you're like, what do I do? Rather than what I do know, what don't I know? And that's what we tend to focus on. We're like, well, like, for example, I'm teaching all these people through my millionaire mentorship program, and there's certain things in real estate that I just never did, and so when we started wholesaling, and it was in 2013, and I did it through 2016, and then we didn't do it again, and so I'm like, you guys, we'll build this program out for you, but understand that, like, wholesaling has not been my bread and butter, and we're going to bring the right experts on to make sure that you understand it. Now, as we've done that, we've gotten better at the novations and the other things that you need to do, and getting our contracts better. And I think that being being a good coach, you become a better student. Yeah, because you want to make sure that the people that you're telling, like,
you know what you're saying.
You're not just giving them a bunch of bull crap and you're like, oh yeah, just do this. And I think a lot of people are okay with that. They're like actually okay, like, lying to people, but
okay with it. And there's a lot of people that are willing to pay for it. Yeah. It's like and it's hard. How do you vet somebody? You don't know. I didn't know you, but it was just like, after a couple conversations, you're like, wow, this guy really knows what he's talking about. And this has been really helpful. Yeah. And also wondering, like, why is he telling me this?
There's always like, what's this guy's motive, right? Like, for me, I have always tried to help people out in real estate. And the reason you want to keep helping somebody out is when they employ what you tell them to do. Yeah. And you were like, anytime I told you to do something, you're like, done. Yeah. And so... And I think that another thing that is great about Ryan is that you are so quick to observe people's personality, like who's against you. And we could go down that rabbit hole. Yeah. But like, I mean, I think that's a skill set, your ability to size up people. And that goes into sales, like your ability to find out who's going to say yes, who's going to say no. Yeah. And Ryan and I actually went on a lot of these appointments together early on, and he would bring me in as the buyer because he felt comfortable enough with me not going in and ruining the deal. You're not going to bring in too many buyers into a deal. And I don't know if you would do that at this stage in the game, you know what I mean? But at that point in time, you felt comfortable with it. But I mean, obviously with me, I think you would, but like other people, it's still one of those things that, like, it's kind of a little bit of a risky thing. But I watched you negotiate some of these deals for $1,300 and for like $1,000. And I was like, oh, this guy's smooth. He knows what he's doing. It's just a sale. And for people who are, trying to get started in real estate investing, I want to bring this point home. He started with sure, you had proof of concept, but there was a one and done. Yeah, so it could have been a one and done. And sure, you made $8,500, but you also had a baby on the way. You have a lot of things. People are counting on you, right? You got 3 babies that are counting on you, and 4 people, your spouse, who's counting on you. Yeah. And that's a lot of pressure. Money is the number one reason for divorce. It's the number one reason for, like, heart attacks, financial stress, all these other things. And so for you to be able to take that on and turn this into a massive business, and we can kind of go into the, like, some of the great things, being able to hire your family, and then some of the great things about being able to saying, yeah, let's put somebody else in there to manage my family because sometimes it's just too difficult. Can you talk about some of those things?
Yeah. I've been in the business management side of things for a long time.
Yeah.
And finding qualified people, finding people that have skill sets that, like, you trust yourself the most, period.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not an egotistical thing for me to say that I do feel like the business is in its safest hands when I'm the one that's doing it. But that only leads to one thing. That leads to you leave a 9-to-5 and essentially create a new 9-to-5,
right.
And then you become a slave to your own business. And that was not like the desire for me personally. Yeah. I know that coming out of the sales world, I didn't see my kids. Yeah. I didn't see my wife. I didn't even, like, coming home. It was like I'd come home, it was dark. I'd get up, it's dark. I'm gone all day long. Barely have time to have, like, a phone call with my wife.
Yeah.
Much less the kids grow up so fast that you're just like, how? I mean, my youngest is now 10, and I'm like, where did 10 years go? Like, and what happened and I didn't want that. So then that became the next thing, is like, okay, how do we make this to where this can function and work without me being in it all the time? And it was like, okay, we got to find people. And I felt like the people I trust the most were my family, and there's nothing wrong with that.
It's a great asset for watching your kids,
right?
But sometimes family doesn't work well together. Right?
Yeah. I think that, and would I do it differently? In hindsight, it's always 2020. Yeah, I'd change the way I did it, because immediately, like, and I didn't know this, I would, like, ask questions at Collective Genius. I'm like, hey, what are some ideas on managing family? And everybody's like, the best idea is don't manage family. And I'm like,
all right, besides that, what else you got?
What else? And, like, I didn't understand that. I'm like, I don't know why. Like, my family is who I trust the most with my own business. But then there was just certain things that, like, it's hard to grow because, like, I have to make business decisions, but I can't make those decisions because it's my family. Yeah. Like, if I need to grow and make this change here or this change here, that affects them, and I don't want that to affect them. Yeah. And so, to me, it's like, there are certain positions within the business that family can make sense in. But then there's also, I think that if it's a sales environment, it's probably just not good to have family, because it's really hard to grow and be a leader as a salesperson when you're managing those family members, because sales is a tough environment. It really is. Like, and you want certain skills to be done, and again, you trust yourself the most, and you know what you would do to make a deal go through. Right. And so I would want that to be done, but at the same time, I don't want to tell them what to do. And so it's just, it can get messy. Yeah, for sure. So I've hired several of my family members. My wife's brother-in-law, and I can tell you, it's always been a short-term thing. Yeah. And, even like recently, my sister's very talented. She's, just had a child, and I was like, hey, why don't you, take some of the discovery calls for and we went through, she had like a million questions. And honestly, I was like, if this was another candidate right now, like, we wouldn't be having, like, these are two, like, crazy questions. She was asking, like, what's the PTO for, like, I'm like, you're working 2 hours a day. There's no, like, PTO. There's none of that stuff. Yeah. And I'm like, and then, she's like, she finally says, well, we're almost there. We're almost at the finish line. And she comes up with, I want to work on Monday at 9 a.m. and then 5 p.m. And I'm like, I need you to. This is what you need. Yeah, this is what I need. And I notice a lot of those conversations these days in the job force are like more about what the employee wants versus what they can offer me. Yeah. And I find that, like, when they lead with that, I'm like, yeah, I'm not interested in that person. It's like, yeah, it'd be a great stepping stone for my career. It's like, all right, well, that's good to know. Good to know, yeah. Yeah. But yeah, it's hard to. I tell Danny, who's here right now, I said it's really hard to find talented young people these days. Are you experiencing the same thing with your company? I think that, like, we've been fortunate to find a couple really talented individuals that work with us. Sales wise, we've got we've been fortunate to find good people that are good at sales. We've gotten fortunate. We just hired a COO, a guy that's been in the management COO position for like 15 years in another business, that sees potential in our business, is like, I want to come and help this scale. And I'm like, that's good. And like that, like, I almost feel like that was too good of a blessing, but at the same time, like, just trying to roll with it and make sure that I don't squander that relationship as well.
Yeah.
I think that in this day and age, the mentality of work is so different than what I have. Like, I'm not afraid to work. I'm not afraid to put in time. And I feel like really the true reward to a successful career does take some sacrifices. And I feel like in this day and age, that's probably just not as cherished. That's not the same mentality. And it's not saying that the way that they think is wrong. Like, right now, there's a lot of really simple, easy ways to make a ton of money. Like, it's almost insane when you look at people making internet content and making millions of dollars. Like, sometimes you watch the dumbest YouTube video and then it goes viral, and then the next YouTube you see of that dumb video, they're like rolling in so much cash, and you're just like, wow. Like, the path to significant wealth can be as simple or stupid as you want it to be. So I think with that, knowing that that's the environment that we live in, it's super hard to get somebody that's motivated and inspired to do what we do at a good level. So again, that's where it's going to come back to leadership and making sure that the environment that you create is an environment that they want to be in.
And that's why I said to, the guy who got me into social media, Ryan Pineda, he mentioned to me a long time ago, and I always knew this. I'm like, where did you find all your great people? Mm-hmm. He said, my followers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's got to be somebody who believes in what I've got going on. Yeah. And it's got to be somebody who believes in me and has got to know me over the internet a long enough time, and is like, that's how I met Danny. That's how I met a lot of the people who are starting to come in, is we're just starting to throw out the word, hey, say the word job. And because I've done enough interviews, in my career, I've interviewed probably well over 1,000 people and hired, hundreds. And I can tell you that this is the single toughest job market. And it could be just because I'm in the Midwest and there's less people out here that are looking for jobs and that are coming here looking for jobs. But it definitely has been the toughest job market. Did you ever want to invest in real estate? Did you ever want to live the life of your dreams? Did you want financial freedom? Did you want to break the generational curse? Did you want to help your parents out? Did you want to help your mom out? Maybe you work for a job that you don't like. They say there's only one reason to work a job, and that's to learn, right? If you're not learning at your job, you're just going through the motions, right? We have a free Facebook group, the Millionaire Mentorship Facebook group for real estate investing. Make sure you join. The link is in the description. If you want to schedule a free call with me and my team and you actually want to start, I would suggest you do so. We have helped hundreds of people change their lives, and all they had to do was get started. They booked a call with me and my team, and they got the ball rolling. And I'm so confident that if you don't get your first or next investment property within the first 90 days, you don't pay, and I'll give you $1,000 cash. That's how confident I am. Obviously, you got to take action. You can't just do nothing and expect that to happen, but that's life. Life's all about taking action. Make sure you give this podcast a 5-star review, share it with a friend, and take action. Transitioning to where your business is at now and where you personally are, what are some goals that you have like this year to try to hit?
We have goals all over the place. Personally, like Megan and I, we want to continue to grow our portfolio. I was pretty adamant, like, trying to get to 100 doors, but I also realized that scaling better and not necessarily bigger is what I want. So 2024, like, Megan and I agreed that we would not do it so fast and recklessly, to be a little bit more calculated and meticulous about the quality of the product that we're turning out in terms of our own properties and others, but doing them, being a little more paced and having good processes in place for the acquisition of properties. obviously, like, having a family puts the acquisition of real estate in the forefront of my mind, because I want to make sure that I'm doing something that's helping my family, not just now, but for generations to come. So, like, we want to scale the business in terms of properties, but also, like, this first quarter, like, we've taken the time to really button down, like, our processes for the wholesale business, our processes for the construction business, just making sure that everything is sharp and ready to go, because when things lift off, like, I want to be prepared and have everything as polished and tight as I can, so that the scale of growing can happen smoothly and efficiently. Not that, like, what we were doing before was, like, super reckless, but just, like, you don't know.
You're just trying to go too aggressive.
You're just trying to go so hard. Yeah. You're like, oh, this is what we'll do. You're making
same thing. I went out here. It's hard when you buy a shitload of properties in a short period of time. Then you've got a shitload of properties that you got to fix.
Right. Yeah. You get, like, last year, I think at one point we had like 11 properties that were vacant sitting. And okay. So we're down to 5, I think, right now. You don't think that that's a big deal?
Yeah.
But the amount of stress that was going on in my head about, I'm afraid one of those is going to burn down from squatters or get damaged worse than it was when I bought it, and make it less of a good deal than when I bought it. So, like, the faster I get to the point where I buy it and start rehabbing it immediately, that's what we want. Like, that was the goal. It's like, let's get all of the ones that were sitting done. Yeah. We can buy one. Like, if we see a great deal come across in our own, like, we've told our team, hey, we are first right of refusal. When a deal comes in, Megan and I get to look at it first and decide, is this something that we want or not?
As you should. It's your business. You should be looking at.
Well, and it's great because it's like there's some good deals that come through, and it is like so hard sometimes to pass them up, because I'm like, I know that's a good one.
Buying good deals.
You can, man. But, like, I want to, when those come across, I'm like, let's give it a week. Let me see if I can get one cleared. And if I can, then I'll buy this one. But at the same time, like, reminding myself, hey, grow better, not bigger. The scale will come. Like, eventually I'll have 100 houses. And then I'll look back and be like, man, that happened fast. Like, 50 happened fast.
50 happened damn fast.
So, like, there is a way that you can do it. You can be more calculated about how fast you're doing this, making sure that things, I'm okay with people buying a couple at a time. Just have a plan. Like, know the plan, and make sure that you also understand that when you buy a bunch of properties, chances are they're going to sit for a little bit. If that's a risk you're willing to take, then fine. But for us, that was a stress point. Like, and so this year it was just like, let's pull that back and let's get these things done. Let's get them rented and grow a little bit slower.
Yeah, I think it's smart. I think you mentioned when we talked on the phone, like, you're looking to pay down debt. I think a lot of people out here on the internet right now, and if you're listening, make sure you give Ryan a 5-star review and share this podcast with someone who could use it, someone who's looking to get started. But too many people these days, you know, a lot of people, even people that I like and I follow and I've interviewed, they preach, you know, without using any of your own money, or like they preach, you know, raise money and do this and do that. The other thing, the reality is that, you know, the number one fear that most investors, new and old, they worry about losing their money.
Yeah.
And so they may say, oh, let's raise other people's money and we'll lose that. Well, that's not a good thing either, because then you got a reputation. And so I think, like, you can be deliberate and you can be smart, and you don't have to over leverage by buying properties right. Like what you've done. And then you can pay your debt down. And then what you have is you have a fortress versus like a bunch of properties that the bank owns primarily, that you have pressure on to pay their mortgage first, that you have extra insurance requirements for them because you're basically holding that property for them. And I think what most people don't understand is, like, listen, debt is fantastic. It is great to use, but you better understand it. And you better understand, Like, how much are you leveraging and what are you getting? And then would it be better to not be maxed out on everything? And would it be better to own a lot of property? Like, I know guys who own 330 properties and they're like, yeah, I own X number of properties and it's worth X number of dollars. But have you ever been through a financial downturn? I have. That's how I started my real estate journey. And when a financial downturn happens and now you're trying to exit deals and they're not worth what they were before.
Yeah.
Who cares what you owe on it? Because it ain't worth what you were trying to do it for. And it may be cash flows, but what if it doesn't cash flow? What if you were pressing your luck a little bit?
Yeah.
And that's just, I think that just shows grow slow, grow consistently, but make yourself bulletproof. Right? That's the whole point of financial freedom. The whole point of financial freedom is not that you have a bunch of stress and then you got a bunch of banks that you owe money to and you have all this thing. It's like, okay, yeah, that's great, but how far am I trying to go? I got 50 houses. If I pay those 50 houses off, what have you guys looked at what that number looks like?
Yep.
What does it look like?
The whole phrase, slow is fast, fast is slow.
Yeah, it's like my golf swing.
But that it's true though. Like,
yeah.
Like, have you realized that like sometimes you have to also take into effect, okay, you could double your cash flow by paying properties off. Like, and we were talking about this the other night. Like,
Yeah.
I know right now I've got 4 properties that have $20,000 left on the mortgage. I could clear all 4 of those off and double or triple my cash flow on those units.
Yeah.
Like, that's an easy, like, okay, am I growing bigger or better? Well, to me, that's better.
Right.
Because then when the economic downturn comes, which everybody talks about, like, oh, it's coming. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But guess who's going to be in a good spot if you're paying attention to those things now?
Yeah.
Like, don't wait till you're at the position I'm in where I've got 50 and then it's like, oh, hey, let's try to pay some of these off. If you think about that a little bit earlier in the game,
Yeah.
and you know, everybody's journey to wealth is different. And you can make an argument of no, leverage as tight as you can leverage and get as much as you can get. I guess it all depends on what your comfortability with risk is. You know, me, I've got a lot on the table that I don't want to put too much risk out there for. So
Yeah, I don't think anybody, most people that you talk to that went belly up, and I should have been one of them in 2008 based on how I bought, and I had every reason to lose everything I had, and that taught me the most important lesson, which is why would I ever buy a property that doesn't cash flow? And then obviously I built I looked at those little boxes, and whether it's a little box that's an ATM, whether it's a little box that's a store, a pizza store that builds you money or does whatever. All of these things, I know yourself personally and myself personally, we're thrifty. Like you finally bought yourself your dream car, which you easily could have afforded. But I didn't buy my first new car. And I just thought about this the other day. I'm like, I'm never selling my Raptor. That is literally my first new car that I bought at 40 years old.
Right.
And so I think that a lot of people, especially on the internet these days, they don't delay their gratification, and they're like, oh, let me flex whatever I got. Even if the Rolls Royce, this, that, the other thing is, when I look at people like that, what I see is somebody who wants massive attention, probably has a product to sell, and it may not be authentic, and they're trying to lead from the shiny things.
well, it's the different stages in life that cause that. When you have a family and 4 kids, and a wife, and you go and you're like, hey, I want to buy a McLaren, and she's gonna be
I kind of do though.
Yeah, well, I've not to say I haven't looked at some really cool cars, but you go to your wife and you're like, I'm gonna buy this McLaren, or I'm gonna buy a Porsche or whatever. You have to make sure that let's make sure the rest of the house is in order. Let's make sure that we are in a good enough position that doesn't affect anything that happens over here.
Yeah.
Now that's just me. That's just my perspective.
Right.
And that's how I would, make sure that people that, if I'm educating, I'm probably not a good fit for the guy that's I just want as much money as I can get so I can go get this sports car. I'm probably not the right person to talk to then, because I'm a little bit more conservative. I'm wanting to make sure that my family's set up, and then Like that, delaying that gratification for that and then moment.
Yeah.
The moment that I'm like, they're set, and then I have all this extra, or I've got these properties all paid off, and then I've got the ability to go and do elaborate vacations or cool cars. Like my dream car is a freaking Mustang. It's not an expensive car by any means, but it's special to me.
Yeah.
You know, and it's something that I dreamed about having. And look, I have a ton of fun with it, and I don't even drive it. Like it sits in the garage a lot.
Yeah.
But like rainy days, I'm like, it's staying in the garage.
Yeah.
I'll drive the '04 F-150 that I have.
Right. And there's no reason to like add, you know, other than the tax law that allows you to depreciate the vehicle by, you know, and they've just chopped that down to 80. I think it's section 179 or 279. I know Doug's out there somewhere. But, you know, I just think that different strokes for different folks, just like you said. But the main thing is every buying decision that I have when I look at a house for the first probably 200 houses was like, ooh, I want a new truck. Mm-hmm. That payment is $1,500 a month. Yeah. I'm going to have to buy 3 houses.
Yep.
I'm going to buy 3 houses and then I get the truck.
Yeah.
The truck pays for the 3 houses pay for the truck. And once the truck's paid off, I got more cash coming in.
Before you can even have that thought, you're like, okay, what do I need to get to make sure I've got food on the table, the mortgage is paid, and the bills are all paid?
Yeah.
Like before you can even get to that.
Yeah. Well, I got to that. So that's what I was trying to figure out. Like even this building right here, like it's losing. I don't even want to know what it's losing per month. But let's just put it like it's half of 6 figures, we'll just say. And, you know, buying it, I knew I was going to burn money for the first however long. And I said, can I afford to do that? And I was like, yeah, I can afford to do that. It's a calculated risk. Yep. And, you know, it's like, for me, it's growing, right? Like, just like you, like you just bought your office space, right? That I remember when we had that conversation. Yep. That was a pretty big move for you. Now looking back, you're talking about buying a cigar lounge now, right? Or making your own. Like, what's kind of on the agenda for you?
I don't know. My personality type is always like, I think of cool ideas and like, what could we give to the community that's good? And then those moments kind of pass. Like, it's just like, just focus on something that's for making sure that my family, like the idea of we want to spend a whole month away and not worry about anything. Like that's on.
Where do you guys want to go?
Really just want to go anywhere warmer than Missouri when it's winter. Because when it's negative 17, I'm like, I don't care where.
Yeah, it is a terrible time for frozen pipes, I'm finding out.
Oh my gosh, yeah. We've had our fair share.
Yeah, no, this was definitely my first wake-up call on what I don't know about the Midwest in terms of weather.
Dude, yeah, like, it doesn't matter how much you know and how much you prepare. Like, I've always, like, if it's a property that's open to the studs, like, I'm always like, wrap the pipes in heat tape, thinking that'll keep them from busting, or put foam around them. Well, when it's negative 17, it doesn't matter what you do. Like, those pipes are going to freeze. And then you're like, oh, just use PEX because it expands and the ice, it won't break. Well, that's all good and fine, but guess what? The shutoff valves, they break. Yeah. So it's like, nothing is bulletproof. You just have to be like, expect those things to come up. And again, if you put yourself in a good position, like those kind of accidents aren't going to be like,
they're not going to break.
They're not going to hurt. Yeah. They're not going to hurt nearly as bad. Like you can weather some storms.
Yeah. There's something that you mentioned before, and I thought it was interesting. Just, you know, you mentioned Max Maxwell. He's been this guy who's taught a lot of people how to wholesale. And then he just disappeared, moved to like, wherever the hell he is at right now, some other country, United Emirates, and doing something completely different. Mm-hmm. Like, people like just kind of go a different direction. What's happened with that guy?
Well, I don't know, but I think that's kind of like, you get to a point where you've accomplished what you set out to accomplish, and then it's like, okay, it's time to do something that I want to do now.
Yeah, you try other stuff.
You did what you got. You did what you needed to do. You reached the level of success that you wanted to reach. You put yourself in the financial position that you can now, like, dream big. Like, do I want to wholesale houses forever? No. Do I want to talk about real estate forever? no, I'm enjoying it right now.
Yeah.
But like when I'm, 55, 60 years old and generations of family is leaving, and my kids are growing up and I'm starting to be a grandpa, do I value all the same things I do now? No, probably not. Like, I think maybe. Where
does that look like? What does Grandpa Haywood look like? Is that like the guy who's like making moves in St. Joe? Is he still living in St. Joe? Has he made such an impact that he's a fixture of St. Joe? Like,
I don't know. Like, I don't particularly value politics in the sense of what it can provide. I don't necessarily think it's doing a great job. I don't know that my future holds anything like that. Like, fine, if I can contribute to St. Joe being a better place for my future generations, that's what I would care about most.
Yeah.
Like, home is home. Like, I've grown up there, but that doesn't mean I'm going to stay there forever. Like, will I have properties there? Will my home probably, as long as I'm, here, I want to be where home is, where my family is.
Right.
And I do enjoy the 4 seasons. I just don't enjoy negative 17 degrees.
So you enjoy 3 of the 4.
Yeah. I mean, even winter to an extent, but like, all my friendships, everything that I've got established there is something that I value, but the world is a big place and I do want to experience that kind of stuff, but I also want my kids to experience that. And I don't know what Grandpa Haywood looks like, but I hope he's cool. And I hope that I am able to provide value to them, and maybe who knows what the future holds for them. I don't know. We'll see when we get there.
Yeah, for sure.
You're closer than me.
That's true. Well, yeah. I mean, our kids are the same age.
That's true. Yeah.
But in age, I am probably closer than you. But it's interesting. Just looking back and seeing everything that you've accomplished in such a short period of time, and that's what I think people need to really, if you're listening right now, understand that like you can make a massive amount of action change for yourself very quickly. Yeah. That's what you've done. And then you could slow down and say, you know what, now I want to go and enjoy all these cool things. Yeah. I want to go live in Florida. I want to go spend a month here and a month there. Personally, I see myself living in Mexico in the next 10 years. Yeah. I see myself living in another country or doing something else. But one thing I thought is interesting, you've seen several families, my family, Doug, who I introduced you, has now become like one of your best friends.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You've seen his family now move out to Missouri. You're St. Joe.
Yeah.
Like, what do you see a lot more people coming to Missouri?
I mean, a lot of people invest in Missouri because the costs cost association to being here, things aren't as expensive as they are everywhere else. If you have a means of making money, like good money from something that's not a Midwestern job, then I think that the Midwest is a great place to be because cost of living is relatively cheap. And we've seen a ton of people move out here since we've started doing this. And I don't know if that's real estate related. I don't know if that's politically encouraged. I don't know what it is. It can't be the weather, but I think that people start to realize, hey, it's not a bad place to go. And it's not as beautiful as the coasts, but we enjoy it. And maybe it's real estate. I know that people that we know that have moved out here because of real estate. And I think that's cool.
Yeah, I don't know if I moved out here for real estate specifically, but it had a large part of what to do with. But I'll tell you what, when you look at in Vegas, and just for somebody who might be considering relocating, I think that number one, when I moved from Seattle to Vegas, it was not well thought out. It was just like, if I don't ever move here, I'm 28 now, I'm probably never going to leave.
Right.
And so I did that. It was the best thing I ever did for my business career. And then looking at Kansas City, having invested so much money here, I felt like, well, they have buildings downtown that I could possibly buy. Mm-hmm. I can't do this in Vegas. Like I'm priced out of the market. I'm competing with trillion-dollar companies, you know, all these hedge funds and stuff like that. And it's a possibility for me to do that here. So if I put myself in this city, that I'm probably going to be able to accomplish a lot of my dreams, and, you know, change is good. And so I'll be able to do a lot of those things. And my personal thing for people who are like thinking about making a change and moving somewhere else, for me, the things that I did not count on about the Midwest is how welcoming people are. They talk about the South, and I own properties, as you know, in Mississippi, a lot of them, and Southern hospitality. But there's actually, the Midwest people seem to be nicer, more welcoming, friendly. There's a lot of gun rights here. You don't need a contractor's license in a lot of counties and states. And there's another thing, I'm going to probably be able to pick up hunting out here because there's deer galore. Yeah. And, you know, the weather, I don't think is bad. You got, like you said, you got 4 seasons. Yeah. It gets cold, but I can tell you what, it's not that nice in Vegas, you know, from December to March. Yeah. You got lots of wind, just like we do here, and it's blowing cold. And then when you get to July and August, it's hotter than hell. And the biggest thing here is that it's a great place to raise a family because we're on 11 acres. Even though my wife's still checking on the kids every 5 minutes to make sure that like no kidnapper came around and done whatever, but it's Mayberry, like where I live is Mayberry, and so it's really cool, and that's something that we weren't counting on. Plus, listen, we can go get a cow, we can go buy milk, all these things. Like you have a chicken coop. Yeah, talk to us about that.
Yeah, I think raising chickens is really fun. First off, they're dinosaurs, so my kids love them. Because they're just little dinosaurs with feathers. Yeah. But then they lay eggs, and then you can eat the eggs.
How many chickens do you have?
We have 7, so we get about half a dozen eggs every day.
Every day.
Yeah. So.
Are you eating all those eggs?
You know.
Are you getting sick of eggs?
I don't actually like eggs that much. It's like once every other week I'll have some eggs, you know, for breakfast or whatever. But it's just another thing that like the kids like to do. They like to raise them. They like to feed them. Getting the eggs is really fun. Yeah. And having a piece of land big enough that like I can have a coop that I don't feel bad having chickens in. Yeah. Like they can roam around freely. Yeah. They seem like they're happy.
You talk to them?
You know, you start to learn how to talk to a chicken, and they are very odd animals, but they are fun. Yeah. And it's just one of those things. It's like, it's a hobby. It's fun. And I'm glad that the kids enjoy it. So, yeah.
And you get your meat from, where do you get your meat?
Yeah, we go to butcher shops, local butcher shops. We have bought a cow in the past because we like to find the quality of meat. I will say that like having the luxuries of real estate has enabled the luxuries of good food. Yeah. And that to me is important. Like getting good, clean food, but then like being picky about what steak I want and like what kind of meat do I want. Like I know it's silly, but it's like, dude, that's something. If I could say what do I overindulge in, it's in food for sure.
100%.
Quality food.
Yeah, it's true. Just kind of wrap some things up with so many crazy things going on right now. Like we don't really have any privacy anymore. We know our phones are listening to us. You've got a 4th child on the way right now. Like how, as a father, what are your concerns for your children growing up in this fast-paced environment and the political climate that is currently being laid down for your children?
You know, to answer that question, I asked my dad, like, what are your thoughts on like raising kids? And he's like, dude, it is much scarier right now. Cause like, you don't know when you're a kid, you don't know the world is scary. No. You know, it's not until you become an adult and you are responsible for making decisions for other people where it's like, oh gosh, this is kind of like out of out of our scope of comfort, or out of our knowledge base on how to even approach these kinds of things. And it's not exactly comfortable. But I have kind of a general rule of thumb, and that's just raise my family the best way that I can, and I can't pay attention to what's happening around the world. You'll just, if you do, you're just gonna be stressed to death. I mean, I do believe that, you know, a lot of stuff that's out there is, you know, it's may not be actually intended to scare you, but like it's not intended to like make you feel safe, you know. It's like, it's stuff that's like, man, this is scary. How do we have this conversation with a 8-year-old, you know? Like, we were not prepared for any of that. Like, that's not stuff that we grew up with. It's not stuff that our parents grew up with. This is all really new, and all stuff that, as a parent of young kids and as a father who's getting ready to bring number 4 into the world, like, I have no clue, like, how we got where we are, what the future looks like. But I know how I'm going to do my best to set my kids up and my family up in a good position. That, you know, that's all I can really do. I just focus on giving them the best that I can give them and seeing what happens. We don't know.
All right. So couple final questions. Number 1, who's your favorite NFL team?
I tend to favor the Green Bay Packers.
Are you so who are you voting for the Super Bowl now that Green Bay unfortunately was eliminated? I was hoping for them to win.
Yeah, so this is always a fun question. Everybody asks me who's your second team, and everybody gets upset when I answer this question. But when the Packers are eliminated, that my off season begins. So I generally don't even watch it. Like,
okay,
if the Chiefs make it, then I'm like, yeah, that's cool, because it's like, it's where we are. That's exciting. But yeah, when my team is out, like, I take that time to be like, I start training camp. I start the off season myself as a fan.
Okay. All right, so that's it. Like, if they're out, you're out.
Yep.
Okay, I understand that. Yeah, I did notice that when we went to the Chiefs game, you were kind of out. You're like, whatever.
Yeah, whatever. It's no big deal.
It just, you know what? I was telling my wife, I was like, hey, if the Chiefs go to the Super Bowl, it's in Vegas. You know, I'm willing to spend X number of dollars. I won't tell you what it is just because it's a little obscene. But I'm like, I'm willing to spend this. And I hit my buddy up, John, who's been a business partner. I'm like, are you willing to spend X number of dollars? And he's like, yeah, I'm willing to spend that. So I told my wife, and she's like, well, I'm like, and then Conrad's like, can I come? I'm like, I'm not willing to spend X number of dollars with you. So just with that sort of thing, there's a lot of things that I want to do and stuff like that. I think I've been to enough football games. I've been to all that crap. Is there any bucket list items that you're trying to check off this year?
No, not really. Like, our bucket list items is getting some properties paid off and like growing the net worth, like stuff like that, but nothing insanely exciting.
Yeah, you're kind of.
We kind of have a baby on the way. So.
You're grounded. I was gonna say you've grounded yourself each like a year. Like, you keep grounding yourself.
Yeah.
Or every 3 years you're grounding yourself. You're like, okay, I'm gonna take this time off, because now you just gotta. I mean, whatever you want to do. If it was travel, you're not gonna be doing any traveling.
No, like we did a lot of traveling last year, and then we hit a stretch where we lost some family members, and like. Just to me, I was like, I think I just want to be home and like just be around my family, be around my kids, because like this year was just particularly hard. We lost 2 grandfathers, so it was like, I just want to be at home. Like,
how did that hit you personally? Like, you know, I don't have any grandpas. I haven't had them in a long time. But
yeah, it's really weird. Like, we actually, like, my grandpa, who passed away back in December on the 15th. He and I were pretty close. Like, he was he loved to talk about my podcast, and he was telling other people about the podcast. He was very involved in my life, like as a cornerstone for me. So that one, and it wasn't an expected thing. Like, it wasn't like he was, well, it could be, you know, we're expecting him not to make it past. we didn't know. Like, it was just very abrupt, very sudden.
So he wasn't sick.
No. Yeah. So it was that was hard. But also, like, there was so much happening with business and with the holidays that my body was processing the grief, but my mind wasn't.
Yeah.
Like, I'm dealing with some injuries, and like some of that could be stress related, like lack of sleep, like so many different things are happening to your body and you're not really sure why, because it's like, am I stressed about anything? I don't feel like I'm not worried about anything.
Yeah.
But like, that's all grief. Like, it's all stuff that you have to process, and it's weird and it sucks, but like, you know,
I've noticed that too. Like, I'm more in touch with my emotions as an older human being than I was as a younger guy.
Yeah.
Like, I just didn't want to deal with them. And now, like, I'll watch a movie and I'll be like, that really hit me, or something. I'm like, what the hell's going on?
I cried in Frozen too,
So let's just kind of wrap it up. Like, let's give like the Ryan Haywood, like, I guess, motivational speech for people who are at the end of this podcast and they're like, okay, cool, I enjoyed Ryan's story and I got to know who he is. Number one, let's get a couple things going. One, if they want to buy a property in St. Joe, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, reach out to us. Get on our website, heritagehomeinvestments.com.
Okay.
You can hit me up on Instagram, either Heritage Home Investments or my personal page, either way. We're happy to help you walk through that process from top to bottom. And
if I'm in California and I'm in one of these other states, what kind of deal can I get from Heritage Home Investments?
We usually, our target is for an investor to be all in at 70% of loan to value, or ARV.
Okay.
So when we send out properties, our target between purchase and renovation, when you're done, we want you to have immediately 30% equity in the deal.
Nice.
So that's the kind of deals that we send out. Typically, we're usually right on the money when it comes to that.
So if you're looking for an immediate 30% equity and do you guys help with property management and stuff like that?
We connect everybody that you need for the whole process.
Right. Just to kind of wrap things up, if people are listening right now and they're unsure of themselves, they don't have the belief in themselves, but they know they're not happy and they're waiting for that pain to get great enough, what sort of words of encouragement that you could offer them, or advice?
I think that I don't know if I have a great word of encouragement. I think that it's going to have to get to a point where you just have had enough.
Right.
Like, you have to really want it. But I think once you get to that point of that I really want it, you're going to be better off. So
yeah.
I would just say, if you're not ready, then wait till you're ready. But if you are, then if it's just simply like, there's going to be doubts, there's going to be struggles, you're going to have issues, you're going to have broken water pipes.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like it's a cakewalk.
Yeah.
But it's so rewarding. Like, and there's so many positive possibilities with real estate. And in 4 years, what I've been able to accomplish, I'm like, if anybody can do this, if I can do this, anybody can do this.
That's the way I say it. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I would say, man, for those people who are looking for something to get to a place of comfort financially, real estate's the game. Find somebody that can help you through it. Like, I was blessed. Like, I got the ability to have Troy Kearns in my ear, and I would say, if anything, find someone that you trust, that you feel comfortable with, that's a good fit for you, and hook up with them and see what your future can be. But I think the possibilities are great, and in 4 years from now, if you get started in real estate, 4 years from now, you're not going to be disappointed at all. You'll be excited about what's there.
100%. I couldn't agree with that more. It's the most predictable way for you to change your financial future, even if you don't go all in and buy 50 properties. Just buying a few is going to change your freaking life, especially if you stick with it. So appreciate you coming on the podcast. This is a great way for me to pay tribute to just the amount of things that you have accomplished. If you guys want, we'll try to link to the original podcast, which we saw it in Vegas. I mean, your growth has been monumental, and Ryan is somebody who's going to be inspiring a lot of people. So I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you sharing your story, and we'll check you on the next one.
See you.
So I wanted to interrupt you in this podcast and just take a quick moment to tell you two things. Number one, we do this for free for you. I haven't made a nickel on social media at all. I'm doing this to provide you enough value. So all I'm asking for you to do is share it and give us a 5-star review. It'll totally help us out, and I really appreciate it. The other thing, if you want more free resources like our free Facebook group, it's Millionaire Mentorship, Real Estate Investing on Facebook. All you gotta do is join it. It's free. It doesn't cost anything, and there's lots of resources there, and we'll definitely give you those for free, no charge. Here's the other thing. If you're serious about investing in real estate and you're ready to take action, I have a program. No matter where you're at in your real estate journey, I can help you out. I don't care if you've got 5 houses, 10 houses, no houses, 100 houses. I've got something that I can share with you that's going to make you a lot of money. And if you want to become financially free and you're brand new to real estate investing, this is the absolute thing you want to do. And here's the thing. What I've learned from most of my students right now is that it's not just an investing program. It's a mindset program. We're going to change the way you think about money. If you want to start investing, make sure you schedule a call with me and my team, and let's get the ball rolling. Guess what else? If you are like, man, I don't got the time and I make tons of money, I just enjoy listening to what you're going to say, that's cool too. We actually have set up a fund where you can invest with us, but you got to be an accredited investor. If you want to find out what that looks like, all you got to do is click the link in my bio, fill out the form. It takes you about 2 seconds, and then we'll let you know about the deals that we're doing. We're doing big deals in Kansas City. And this year, I think we'll do 2 huge deals in Kansas City. I'm looking at a few right now, and I want you to be a part of it. And if you've got more money than time, then that's what you should do. If you got more time than money, then schedule a call with me and my team, and we'll get you into our coaching program so that you can have more money than time.